Hello, BookTube. I moved locations in an attempt to avoid the blinding nimbus of light. So I came here into the little book room. I am starting to get fatigued, but I had another entire pile of mail arrived today, and I like opening mail with you. I like going through all this stuff with you. It's just so much fun, and it's so nice of you to indulge me in such a thing that I thought I would just move everything in here, especially since. I know it'll play bloody hob with our read-alongs and whatnot, but I really think I might just stay in bed from, uh, you know, 8 o'clock tonight until 8 a.m. on Monday. I think I might just skip Sunday. It's supposed to be cold and rainy all day tomorrow. I don't know if that'll happen, but we shall see. We shall see. I am not, like all, Boston Irish Catholic, I am not good at pampering myself at all. But I have been rather extensively told in the last 2 days to pamper myself, and I have been encouraged to do that. I've been bumping into things, for Pete's sake. I've been sleeping in broad daylight. I've been encouraged also by a lot of you to just indulge yourself, ease off for a bit, and come back all the stronger. So I might just skip tomorrow, which means that we'll do these mail hauls and then that'll be it. But I could be wrong. Maybe I'll feel much better tomorrow. My recuperative abilities are rather good. So it could be that I will be better tomorrow, or so much better as not to make the difference. So let's see what we have for this next batch of mail. I could be doing other things. I could be spending the time on other things, but I just love doing mail with you people. I just love it. I don't always have there's almost never anybody here when the mail comes, and even my bookish friends, I have a lot of bookish friends, including a lot of book critics, and even they cannot be relied upon to be just universally excited about everything that comes in the mail. They usually have their specialties. Most book critics that I know have their specialties. They have, and I do too. But I'm willing to read anything. I should put it that way. Most book critics that I know have their specialties, but even if they didn't, they would still have to police their reading because they read very slow compared to me, and they have lots of other obligations on their time than I do. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's nice for you to be there. I appreciate it very much. There was some schmutz on the cover of this thing, but I've fixed it. And what we have first here is a novel, and I believe it's a debut novel for 2020. This is by Kade Simpson Smith, and it's called The Everlasting. Quite the cover. The Everlasting. Maybe this isn't a debut. Huh. Is this your debut? The author is unbelievably young. Oh no, this is not her debut. She wrote novels called Story of Land and Sea and Free Men. Okay, so what do we got here? Actually, let me read this so I can show you this, because the cover is rather good. This is The Everlasting. It is with barely contained excitement that I share with you an early look at acclaimed author Kade Simpson Smith's stunning third novel, The Everlasting, which comes out in March. This is not only a departure from her earlier work, it is unlike anything you've read in recent years. Slow down there, Seymour. I think what you mean to say is it's unlike anything you've read in recent years. You read maybe 50 books a year, okay? So, slow down there. Spanning 2,000 years in and around Rome, Smith joins the stories of four characters: an early Christian child martyr, a medieval monk at work in the putridarium. That's exactly where I've spent the last 2 days, smack dab in the middle of the putridarium. A Medici princess of Moorish descent and dubious legitimacy, and a contemporary field biologist conducting an illicit affair. Through it all, Satan travels with them, narrating their struggles with, and by turns, bitter and biting commentary, offering counsel no one hears. Smith recreates Rome again and again in vivid detail, charting the illustrious growth of the city whose every stone is a moment in Western history, though, as Satan observes, quote, "This is the city for hustle, for building permanent toques on human transience, and then building on top of those, No one is remembered except the pulsing city itself, which, sack after sack, refuses to perish. Okay, all right. Satan's obviously never heard of Julius Caesar. So you'd think he'd paying so much attention to the world, he would probably know that, but wow, all right, well, great. This comes out in March. So we start off things with an ambitious novel. Great. Certainly worse ways to start off a mail, huh? Let's see what this next one is. Okay. This is nonfiction. From the folks at Europa Editions. Yes? Europa Editions are always so good. They have such a great editorial team there. Oh, okay, all right. And they have an imprint, or not an imprint, but an imprint, maybe I guess you could call it that. Their Europa Compass is about travel writing. It's new travel writing. Travel writing is a subgenre that I really love. This is by Sylvain Tesson, and it's called Xena. On 3 wheels from Moscow to Paris, chasing Napoleon's epic fail. On 3 wheels, a sidecar going from Moscow to Paris. Okay, this comes out in early November. The retreat of Napoleon's grand army from Russia culminated after a humiliating loss with the crossing of the river Berezina, a word that henceforth became synonymous with unmitigated disaster for the French and national pride for the Russians. 200 years after this battle, Sylvain Tesson retraces Napoleon's retreat along the way, reflecting on lessons of history, the meaning of defeat, and the realities of contemporary Europe. Take 5 friends, put them on Ural motorcycles complete with sidecars. Add an obsession with history, a penchant for literature, what some might consider an excessive amount of vodka, and a 2,500-mile odyssey following the history's most infamous retreat, and you've got Sylvain Tesson's Berezina. Fantastic. I'm sold. So this comes out in November. This is the finished copy. It is going to be a $15 paperback, so you can go without your cafe latte with a half twist of mocha latte and buy this book instead, which you probably love. But great, it goes on the top of the pile. It and a reread of The Puritans goes on the top of the pile. So let's see here. Oh, okay. Oh, how interesting. All right. Okay. This is from the folks at Yale University Press. A little bit on the sad side, a little melancholy. This is by Katherine Tempest. We've seen this book before. We saw it in an advanced copy, we saw it in the finished copy, and now here's the paperback. This is by Katherine Tempest, and it is called Brutus, the Noble Conspirator. And the bittersweet thing is, and those of you might remember, is that the hardcover of this was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And this is boring. So somewhere along the line there was a design change. But I like this a lot. I thought this was really, really good. I'm not blurbed, I assume. No, but wait a minute. There are no American blurbs on the back cover. I wonder, did Yale just use the UK edition of this book as their paperback? Did they just do that? Well, anyway, I thought this was really good. Just about as good a job as you could do with the sources that we have for Brutus and the Fall of the Republic. So if you're interested in Roman biography, whether the paperback cover is to my liking or not, you're going to love this book. Let's see, what do they say about the little Ponce? Conspirator and assassin, philosopher and statesman, promoter of peace and commander in war, Marcus Brutus was a controversial and enigmatic man even to those who knew him. His leading role in the murder of Julius Caesar on the Ides of March immortalized his name forever. Yeah, that's what immortalized means. You don't have to say immortalized forever. But the verdict on his act remains out to this day. Does it really? Does it indeed? Okay. Was Brutus wrong to kill his friend and benefactor, or was he right to place his duty to country ahead of personal obligations? Anybody care to answer that, class? Surely you don't need to be raised Irish Catholic to know the answer to that question. No. Is the jury really out on whether or not Brutus was right to plunge a knife into the heart of his friend? I guess that's one wishy-washy jury. Okay, well, this has a date on it of October 28th, but of course with paperback releases, there's no embargo of any kind. So It could be in your bookstores already. And it looks very different. We're just going to have to make our peace with that. That's all. We're just going to have to make our peace with that. It doesn't. I'm glad I still have my hardcover because this is not quite to my liking. Let's see here. Oh no. Okay. All right. This is from the brainy folks at Harvard University Press. This is comes out any day. Good Lord. This is by Alex Krieger, and it's called City on a Hill. And you know where that phrase comes from. Everybody knows where that phrase comes from. Urban idealism in America from the Puritans to the present. Nice heavy thing. Americans have always been more intrigued by the cities of their imagination than by those at their feet, and set off on many a utopian departure to perfect their places of settlement. From the first European settlers who saw America as a paradise to today's goals of creating the ultimate smart, resilient, and just city. This idealism of what a city could be has always permeated our imagination and helped to shape our physical world through architecture and city design. The author takes us on a journey uncovering the history of American cities and towns, told through the great idealist movements that have driven our urban design. Oh, that sounds fascinating. Who is the author when he's at home? Look at that. You want to hear what he has to say. He's a professor of practice of urban design at Harvard Graduate School of Design. Honored repeatedly as one of Harvard's most outstanding teachers, Krieger is the co-editor of Mapping Boston. Oh my God, Mapping Boston was so good. I don't currently have a copy, but it's so good. He is also principal at NBBJ, a global firm offering services in architecture, urban design, and planning. He's a frequent advisor to mayors and their planning staffs, and has served on a number of national and regional boards and commissions, including the U.S. Commissions of Fine Arts. Okay, so he knows his subjects better than you or I do. Great, and this is right around the corner, so I need to get to it right away. All right, let's move on. I am fading fast here, but I will stick with you long enough. This mail haul ends with a couple of boxes, and then I'm just going to cash in. Oh, great. Okay, this is a November book. We saw this already. This is Kade's Fate of the Fallen. Another Tor book. Am I getting fantasy and science fiction from Tor? Nobody would be happier about that than me. It's the one lacunae in my vast, sandworm hoovering up of all new books. It's the one thing I don't get as much of as I would like, considering that I love science fiction and fantasy. I guess I should get to work on reviewing science fiction and fantasy to show that love, shouldn't I? It is kind of a circular process. Let's see here. So this comes out on November 5th. We got the advance copy of this, and a lot of you expressed interest in it. Renowned for her New York Times bestselling self-published works, author Kade gears up to once again redefine the genre with Fate of the Fallen. Why can't I have a name as cool as Kade? It's not fair. What would happen? What would have happened if Frodo died and left Sam to destroy the One Ring? Well, I know that question is meant to make us all say, "Oh my God, no, no, no!" But am I alone here in considering Sam to be the real hero of the Lord of the Rings? Frodo's a whining little tosspot. Sam's the one who gets the thing across the finish line. And you always knew that he was going to. So, anyway. In her epic starter series, Kade explores what happens when destiny is forced to reroute and the courage it takes to step into a role you were never intended for. Fantastic. Matthias is the prophesied chosen one, and when he dies before completing his quest, it's up to his best friend Oslo to assemble an anti-fellowship of miscreants to try to save the world, or at least survive until tomorrow. I've had this advance copy, and I haven't got to this thing, so now I need to. Maybe not immediately, because immediately I'm going to collapse into a heap of blubber. And maybe not post-immediately, because post-immediately I'm going to wrap up some October stuff, but November, before it's pub day. And a review. Not just reading it and telling you about it, but a review, so the publisher can have something to look at. Okay, what is this next one? Oh, I'm fading fast here, so I might not be... We'll get to the boxes. I will finish the mail haul, and then I will disappear. Okay, so I don't know if we saw this already. This is What It Is. Race, Family, and One Thinking Black Man's Blues. Also due in mid-November. What It Is by Clifford Thompson. Huge number of blurbs on the front of this thing. Just huge. Who voted for Trump and why? What a way to start a pub sheet. Has become a familiar and fundamental question. One we're continuing to ask in the lead up to the 2020 election. Has been a fundamental question. Far more upsetting to me than watching a real estate swindler and a criminal that I'd been appalled by and fulminating against for 35 years become president of the United States. Far worse than that was the way it ripped the surface off the veneer around the people that we know, friends that we meet with, colleagues. It ripped the surface veneer off. And suddenly you were surrounded by people you didn't know quite so well. Some of them you knew as well as you had before. Others, suddenly you learned things about them that you wish you didn't know. About their comfort level with fascism. About their willingness to hurt themselves in order to, quote, own the libs. About their facility for strongman dictator types. The exact same kind of ripping away the illusion moment of shock that I think now, looking back now, I think happened in 1930s Germany. The exact same sort of thing. I saw it so many times in the diaries of 1930s Germans, of ordinary Germans in 1930s Germany. I saw it so many times. That note struck over and over again in their diaries, and I ignored it because it's so much easier to think of good and evil. It's so much more Jesuitical to think of good and evil. But I saw that note struck over and over again in those journals of, oh my, I had no idea what my neighbor thought of me. I had no idea that that was true. They had hidden it this whole time, or maybe they didn't know. But my last name is Werther. Yes, I'm Jewish, but I'm German. I had no idea that they were willing to put me on a car and send me out of town. Anyway, that's a lot from just one line. And Clifford Thompson probably has other things to talk about, so let's let him back into the conversation, shall we? In a concise and heartfelt take on the state of his nation, award-winning author Clifford Thompson delivers critical answers to that question. In the grip of contradictory emotions, Thompson turns for guidance to the wisdom of writers he most admires. James Baldwin, Albert Murray, Joan Didion. What a lineup. Wow, not much you won't learn from them. While knowing what the answers to his questions about America and its current crises ultimately lie in America itself, and that he must investigate these questions in his own writing. Through interviews with a varied group of Americans, ranging from a retired California highway patrolman who supported Trump, a community service director in the Bronx, a founder of the National African American Gun Association, Thompson employs the observational reporting style of Joan Didion to share sharply divergent opinions about what is transpiring in the country while trying to find his own answers. Conclusions based not on conventional wisdom or on what he would like to believe, but on what he sees. Okay, this thing just shot to the front of the list. Okay, unfortunately, it's not going to take any length of time to read. This comes out in early November. Wow. Imagine if this was the great Trump book at a third the size of some of the other ones that have come out. Well, all right, I'll let you know. So let's press on here before I collapse. What is this next one? Oh, it's fiction. Is it fiction? Yes, it's fiction. Translated fiction. From Cuban literary star Marcial Gala. Okay, this is the Black Cathedral, translated by Anna Kushner, and coming out from FSG in early January. So right around the corner, as unbelievable as that sounds, right at the beginning of the 2020 year. This is a novel of murder, race, belief, and fate from Cuban literary star Marcial Gala. The first of his works to be brought into English, this book is skillfully translated by Anna Kushner and introduces Gala's fantastic vision to an American audience. The Stewart family moves to a marginal neighborhood of Cienfuegos, a city on the southern coast of Cuba. Arturo Stewart, a charismatic preacher, discovers soon after arriving that God has given him a mission to build a temple that surpasses any before seen in Cuba, and to make Cienfuegos a new Jerusalem. Meanwhile, Arturo's 3 children grow up in the rising shadow of the cathedral. As it is built, the new generations become further enmeshed in the passions and conflicts of the neighborhood. A chorus of narrators, including gossips, gangsters, a ghost, and a serial killer, take turns telling Stuart's story, with voices and perspectives each so distinct they bring the entire community to life. That sounds really good. Okay, and this is early in 2020, January 7th. I'd be back by then. So, translated literature. I wonder about the translation. Okay, once again, we have a title that has been subtly altered from the original. And I don't know why. I always wonder why that is. Is that the translator or the publisher or the editors thought, this will be more understandable? Or is it that they were trying to avoid specific delicacies of an American reading audience? You don't want to make your problem start with the title of the book. But those of you who... this is called the Black Cathedral in English. But in Spanish, it's called La Catedral de los Negros. Those of you who you don't even know any Spanish to know that is subtly different. that is not. I wonder if you did a literal translation of that. I wonder if the publisher was thinking, well, we can't have a literal translation of that because that would be bad for the book's sales. I'm curious to know about that. Ask around and see. I don't know who I would ask. It's a pretty delicate question. But anyway, now we've got the boxes, and then we'll be done. And then I will take the bean for a very slow, creepy walk around the block, and then collapse into a heap of my own effluvia, and hopefully not forget to upload. I don't want to forget to upload this. What are you doing, baby? You want this box? No? Well, the only other thing is a book. You don't want that. You're a good little girl. You don't chew on books. Oh, fantastic. Oh, no, baby. Oh, is that what you wanted? You want the plastic? You can't have the plastic, baby girl. Here, but now that you're up here, let's see your friends. My little companion. She's been very good company while I've been sick. This we already saw. But I had no idea that the finished copy would be so beautiful. Good Lord, how incredible. This is from Yale University Press. They very wisely chose just a naked hardcover. This is by Clarissa Campbell-Orr, and it is Mrs. Delaney. Just that. That is what it looks like. And we have... it's full of color photos. There are the places of Mrs. Delaney, and if I remember correctly, we have a picture of Mrs. Delaney herself in here somewhere. Well, I'll find it. So let me tell you about this again, because this comes out October 22nd. This is out already in your bookstores, but I don't know. This is a 450-page naked hardcover for $40 from Yale University Press. I don't know if this will, in fact, be in your bookstore. You might have to ask for it. You might have to order it or request it at your library. But you shouldn't miss it. This is the first comprehensive biography of Mary Granville Delaney, an artist and court insider whose flower collages continue to inspire widespread admiration. She is best remembered for her captivating paper collages of flowers, but her artistic flourishing came late in life. This nuanced, deeply researched biography pulls back the lens to place Delaney's art in the broader context of her family life, relationships with royalty, and her endeavor to live as an independent woman. Clarissa Campbell-Orr, a noted authority on the 18th century court, charts Mary Delaney's development from a young woman at the heart of the elite circles to beloved grandmother and celebrated collages. She traces the varied connections Mary Delaney fostered throughout her life and which influenced her intellectual and artistic development. John Wesley, Georg Friedrich Handel, Jonathan Swift, and England's leading patron of science, Margaret Bentinck. Mrs. Delaney, this book, reveals its subject to be far more than a widow befriended by Charles III and George III and Queen Charlotte. She is instead restored to her proper place in the era's aristocratic society as a groundbreaking artist. Fantastic. Okay. Fantastic. Well, okay, so this goes to the front too, although maybe not as emphatically because I've already read this. I really liked it, but I want to reread it again in the beautiful hardcover with all the illustrations in color. I guess a lot of things are jostling for my attention here, and it feels like that feels extra emphasis because my attention has not been what it usually is in the last few days. So I feel like I'm neglecting books. I have been neglecting books. All right, so this is the last one, and then we'll be done. Just done. Okay, this is from Yale. This comes out next week. Don't think we saw this. I don't think we saw an advance copy of this. This is by John Hardman, whose name I recognize, but I'm not off the top of my head remembering what I recognize it from. I think I've read other books by him. But this is Marie Antoinette, The Making of a French Queen. Kind of strange. Revealing new biography overturns earlier assumptions about a famously out-of-touch queen. Who was the real Marie Antoinette? She was mistrusted and reviled in her own time, and today she is portrayed as a lightweight, incapable of understanding the events that engulfed her. In this new account, John Hardman redresses the balance and sheds fresh light on Marie Antoinette's story. Hardman shows how Marie Antoinette played a significant but misunderstood role in the crisis of the monarchy. Drawing on new sources, he describes how, from the outset, Marie Antoinette refused to prioritize the aggressive foreign policies of her mother, Maria Theresa. I put in a little note here, and then we'll forge right on, that this is the 200th Marie Antoinette biography in the last 50 years. 200, 300 biographies of Marie Antoinette in the last 50 years. How many biographies have there been of Maria Theresa, who was not a fop, who was not an idiot, who was not a consort, who ruled in her own right, and who is infinitely more interesting? How many have there been in that time? But anyway, bravely took over the helm from Louis XVI after the collapse of his morale, and when revolution broke out, listened to the Third Estate and worked closely with repentant radicals to give the constitutional monarchy a fighting chance. Okay, so John Hardman. I know this author, but I don't know. They're not listing his on the end papers. Give us herself. The end papers aren't giving me details about what he's written, but it doesn't matter. So this is a reevaluative life of Marie Antoinette. Those there've been a couple of those in the last 30 years. They don't tend to go well. There's only so much you can do, but we'll see. Some of that is probably dependent on the inventiveness of the author. Yeah, it might be time to wrap things up. So we'll do a Steve pyramid. So we have Marie Antoinette. We have Mrs. Delaney. We have Fate of the Fallen. We have City on a Hill, Americans and Their Cities. We have The Everlasting, a novel about all the ages of Rome. We have Brutus, like Katherine Tempest. I wonder if he's in The Everlasting. Probably he is. We have What It Is, a man goes in search of Trump's America. We have The Black Cathedral, translated fiction in 2020. And Xena, traveling from Russia to Paris in a sidecar. So there you go. That is our second sickbed mail haul. I'm just going to, oh God, this was a mistake. I'm going to wrap things up for here. I don't know when you'll see me again. I will try to remember to upload these videos and then maybe just take tomorrow off. But I couldn't miss seeing your faces. So I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.